Hey everybody, welcome back. Another episode here of Banish the Doubt. Um, before I get started with my video, what I want to talk about today, part of what I do and what others like myself do in making these videos comes from a lot of other people, a lot of other doctors and scientists and authors, but it's very interesting. I was watching Dr. Wayne Dyer, a video of his from when he was alive, and he talked about how he got to a point in his career where he didn't use any notes. He said, early on in his career, he would get his all his notes all perfectly aligned, exactly what he wanted to say, and he would go, obviously, like I guess, uh, page by page, very organized, very detailed. And then he said he got to a point where he just allowed the thoughts to come through him and out to the audience. He went on later on in his life and his career and said, "This is who I am. I'm just speaking from the heart." And that's right where I want to transition to. So today's episode is going to be a combination of heart and some just an amazing. Just wait till you hear the story. The story I'm about to share with you is utterly amazing, and it will rock your world if you haven't heard it. It just each time I recount it or I hear about it, I hear it again. It's utterly amazing. But it really is a story of just how powerful our bodies are. So I want to start off here with this quote. If the door to perception were cleansed, man would finally see things as they really are, infinite. That was from William Blake. I would like for you to just close your eyes and imagine for a second one grain of sand on a beach. Just a simple grain of sand. Now I would like for you to imagine from this quote that grain of sand being the earth in this on this beach of infinity, galaxies, Milky Way galaxies, thousands of them. And I would like for you, perception now, to understand just where we are at and drill down, drill down, drill down to just how you're thinking in this moment as you're watching me and what it is that you're thinking about. What were you thinking about before you clicked on my video? Because it's in this perception that everything in our world is created. I would like for you to think about this here. This is my son's VR. Okay, this virtual reality game, I guess you would call it. I'm not sure what they refer to it anymore today. But think about your world is right here. Everything when you wake up in the morning, it's almost like you're putting that on your face. And everything you see in your world, different than anybody else's, is the perceptions that you had yesterday and prior leading up to that point. All the people in your world, all the events in your world, all the circumstances in your world are based off of these beliefs and these perceptions, how you see the world. Okay? So you don't need to be understood then. You just need to understand yourself. Insecurity means gripping. So anytime we find ourselves in our world hanging on to something, I would like for you to think about the job that you have. If it's a job or it's a career or it's an endeavor. I can remember specifically, I could virtual reality. I can see myself standing on Mrs. Bongiovanni's lawn. I was about, I think, 20 years old, thereabouts. I can see myself standing right as her lawn was There was like a little bit of hill, started to go down, and there's steps, her steps going up to her house right next to me. I can recall vividly in that moment, I had started my landscaping business, looking around saying, yep, this I love. This is something my brain and my heart were aligned in that moment. Now, perception, beliefs. Not long thereafter, I had the opportunity to purchase another young guy's business. He had, I think he had about 100 or so accounts, and he was going out of business. Young guy, whatever. He just decided not to do it. And I needed at the time $2,000 to purchase his accounts. And I remember going to my brother-in-law and him telling me, "No, I'm not going to give you the money." He definitely had it, and I was crushed. Perception. See, he saw in me. He didn't see in me somebody who was really maybe serious or somebody who was really had a certain conviction. He didn't have the belief that I would be able to pay him back. My other uncle, my cousin, who owned a car dealership, or I think, he was a salesman at the time. He went on to own it. Said to my mom, I would have given him the money for sure. In fact, I probably would have helped him out and buy him some more equipment or what have you. Perception. One, and this ties right into beautifully Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you ever read that book, if you haven't, you may want to pick it up, by Robert Kiyosaki. My brother-in-law, college educated, government job, doing well. My cousin, no college education, working in sales, car dealership. Said, yeah, the mindset. Now, I ended up not pursuing or going on with the business because a lot of the beliefs I had didn't align with building a business. I didn't believe that I was good enough or whatever. But this insecurity, I was insecure about the business. Now, I want to ask you, does the job that you have, is it a job? Is it an endeavor of yours? Is it a belief? Is it something that you wake up in the morning saying to yourself, this is who I am. I love doing this. Like myself, when I was standing on that lawn that day, like the heart and mind connection. Or are you at the job because you're insecure that if you feel you lose the job, can't make the car payment, can't make the rent payment? And if that's the case, then I don't want to say you're wasting your life, but you kind of are. Because you're going to get to a point in your life when you're going to say, I've never really lived. I never really went after what it is that I want to go after. I never really did what I wanted to do with my life. And for a lot of people, that is a reality. Um, you know, people unfortunately live that way. They have a job because they're afraid if they don't have it, they can't make those payments. They're in a relationship, but they're afraid if they leave the relationship, they're never going to find the one. They're going to be alone. So they settle. How many of you watching this video right now are settling, regardless of how old you are? How many of you have the conviction tomorrow to walk into your job and tell your boss, thanks, but I'm out? What are your beliefs? Do you believe you can make it? What is making it? Do you believe you'll find the money? The money will find you, that you'll be fine. You'll be able to pay your mortgage and all your rent or your car payment or whatever it may be. What I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is we are extremely more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And I'm going to talk more about why that is, that we have these beliefs or these thoughts or this insecurity. You see, a lot of us are in jobs or careers, sales, for instance. Sales is very big on this insecurity. You got to close the other person, right? ABC, always be closing. Closing meaning manipulating that person or having turn that person to force that person to see your side. Now, there is some truth to that, or say there is truth to that. But there's also some truth to being able to align yourself with a person and have them see what you're offering, and then having that union. Them come to you and say, okay, got it. They'll walk right across that bridge and say, I'll gladly give you my credit card. I'll transfer the money to you. See, because money does not come to us, money comes here and through us, right? Think about the money from your job. Your boss or your company sends your money into your bank, and then you take that money and you give it to the supermarket, right? So it comes through you, not to you. You don't make money. If you want to make money, you go buy a printing press with a whole bunch of green paint, and then you can make money. We generate an income. You may want to think to yourself, what are you doing while you're living, not for a living? See, this is society has us thinking that we have to make a living. We don't make a living. We create through our imagination, through our beliefs, through our perceptions. We create our life. You're doing it right now. You've done it so far in your life. You may not like what you've created or how you perceive life, but you are doing that based off of the beliefs and these perceptions that we have. So I want to talk about our hearts and our minds, our brain and our heart. And I want to talk a little bit about if you have never heard this before, I hadn't, that our our hearts actually have a brain. There's actually a brain inside of our heart. I've never heard that before. But I'm going to touch on that a little bit. And I'm going to, again, tie in this story. That is just an absolutely amazing, amazing story that you're going to have to hear to believe. But it's this amazing story. So I want to continue with this theme. Now, mainstream scientists have said that our minds and the universe operate like a computer. So your mind is just like this computer that I'm creating this video with. It has an operating system. Okay, so if I go to Google and I type in green sweater, I don't get pictures of purple sweaters. Okay. Now, an MIT professor, Seth Lloyd, said he was the designer of the world's first quantum computer. He said the universe is a computer. Now, again, going back to what I said a few minutes ago, right? The vastness, the infinite universe. There's no beginning and no end, but it operates like a computer. So computers are programmed by numbers, ones and zeros. But our consciousness computer is programmed by our beliefs. So beliefs, the code you and I use to program from our birth, our conscious computer, the language of our heart. Our conscious computer, the brain, is the language of our heart. So if I were to ask you to point to yourself, 99.99% of you, if I ask you to go ahead and point to yourself, where are you going to point? Are you going to point here? No. If somebody says point to yourself, are you going to go here? We instinctively just go right to our heart. We don't even think about it because this is who we are. We're not this. We are this. But when we link these two together, we create this cohesiveness. This is why when we fall in love, okay, the whole world just blossoms like a rose, right? Like a beautiful flower. And when we're in love, everything just sort of it floats, right? There's a glow to somebody. There's something about you, right? There's a aura about you, a certain glow because we're energy. We emit this energy. when we have this heart and mind connection, when we're in love. That's why we call it good vibes. But chemically, on a chemical level within our bodies, things are operating on a certain wavelength, we refer to as a certain way. So I want to continue. Now, this brain in our hearts that I talked about has 40,000 cells in it. Okay, it's similar to the ones found in our brains. They're called sensory neurites, is what they're referred to as. They transmit information into our central nervous system. So when we have these thoughts, when these thoughts go into our brains, it emits this information into our how we feel. Most of it is right here, centered right here in our gut. That's why we can have butterflies in our stomach, because that's the tightening of the cells in the operations in our gut. That's why it tightens up. This is why a lot of us will have that feeling, that pit in our stomach we refer to it as, right? This is why we feel this way. So when you touch your heart, your awareness will, when you touch your heart, so going back to what I said, you point to yourself, you point to your heart. Point to yourself, you point to your heart. And when we do this, in that moment, our awareness will always go to the place where we feel the touch. So I watched a video with Greg Braden. If any of you haven't heard of him, you may want to pull up some of his videos. He talked about, it was, I believe, right around, it may have been September, I think it was September 11th. For those of you maybe a little younger watching this, September 11th, 2001, forever known as 9/11. Okay, so we'll go with that. He was, I believe, in Australia, he said, and he had not heard about what was happening. And he said he wanted to board a flight to go to Los Angeles. And I gather this was around the time when they were starting to loosen the restrictions a little bit. Anyway, he said he was going to board a Boeing 747, huge airplane. But he said there was only like 20 people getting aboard the plane, and the airport said to him, not so sure you want to go. And they started explaining to him what had happened. Here's why I'm bringing it up, and you can watch the story on YouTube here. He said he asked the lady at the desk or the ticket center, the ticket counter, just to give him a moment. He said I walked around the corner, and he said I touched my heart, and he said I just took a few moments just to kind of calm myself because of what I had heard. And he said he realized in that moment when he touched his heart, he said, yes, everything was going to be safe. He would be fine. And he obviously went back to the lady. He said, okay, fine. He got on the plane, and obviously he was fine. But he said, but he used this technique where he touched his heart, and his awareness went there. And he just lowered the temperature, lowered his thinking, and he went with his gut, his feelings that, yes, he was going to be just fine. And he went on. So this is a technique that maybe we can start to incorporate. When we find ourselves in certain states, something happens external to us. Instead of overreacting, and I'm going to get to a quote here in a few minutes that really kind of ties in with this as well, from Viktor Frankl. We want to, if we can, consciously take ourselves out of that state before we react, because we go into different states. So we can do something like this, and we just sort of calm ourselves, calm our thinking, and then we find ourselves responding versus reacting. Okay? So now these cells in our brain, they think independently, they feel independently, and they act independently of our brain. These cells in our hearts, they think, feel, and act independent of our brain. Now, Greg also said this, we know more about the climate on Mars than we do about the functions of the relationship between our hearts and mind. William Blake also said, what is now proof was once only imagined. So now think about any invention, the Wright brothers with the airplane. I was just talking about that with Greg Braden, right? Think about the invention of the airplane. It was once imagined in the Wright brothers' minds, but that mind and heart connection, they stayed with that, and we have airplanes today. So think of any invention, everything you think about. You can think, the chair that I'm sitting in, the table that my computer is sitting on, in this dining room, the house of which I am in, was once only an imagination in someone's mind. That is now proof of that imagination coming to fruition. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women are merely players. William Shakespeare. So, again, going back to the virtual reality, you and I are just players on this stage. And I'm going to get to that a little more specifically here in a few minutes. But I'd like for you to think of it this way, that all the world is a stage, and you and I are merely players. We are always playing a role, always pretending, right? Perception, right? To be someone. Our outer world is a shadow cast by the light of our consciousness. That comes from Neville Goddard. I would like for you to think of, again, the virtual reality, that your world, different than my world, is nothing but what the outpicturing of your innermost thoughts. Again, go back to what William Blake said. What is now proof was once only imagined. The innermost thoughts, airplane, going to get in the sky, going to stay in the sky, is now proof. It's a shadow cast by the light of our consciousness. They became conscious of this and they stuck with it. The idea. We walk by faith, not by sight. That was from the Bible, from Paul. He said this. But this is how, go back to what I was talking about with a job. If it's not fulfilling, okay, then we have the courage. And I'm not saying we should leave the job and then, well, tomorrow I wake up and go, well, now nowhere to go. I'm homeless. I'm going to be homeless here. But it's not that. It's just becoming conscious of the fact that Neville said, what I choose is choosing me. Okay? So what you're thinking about, the relationship maybe you would like to be in, the job, the kind of health that you'd rather have if you're finding yourself overweight. The imagination, what we can desire, what we can see, chooses us. We don't choose it. But if we try to force things, go back to this insecurity I was talking about, if we're trying to force outcomes, then we are choosing that. We're not allowing that we have in our minds and our imagination, the airplane, to choose us. See, the invention of the airplane chose the Wright brothers. Bill Gates, computers, all this chose, that invention chose him. Go through any invention in our lifetimes. Those things chose them. They just aligned with them. They allowed themselves, like the heart and the mind, that coherence, that connection to happen. They had the desire, and then they just allowed themselves to sort of follow the desire, follow that, choose, accept what was choosing them. So you've maybe seen and heard me talk about in previous videos our minds. We have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is extremely, extremely important to understand, and to understand the workings of it and how we can change the programming that is inside there. So now the subconscious, why do we want to have access to it? Because from time to time, we are, well, I'm sorry, I'm misstating that. So from the time we were a fetus, not born, we were a fetus in the womb, okay, until age 7, we began to absorb our environment. And what were we absorbing? Patterns in our environment, patterns of personality, behaviors from our caregivers. So the person, the mom and dad or grandparents or whoever raised us, we started to absorb those patterns and those behaviors as a fetus. Okay, so I would like for you to think of, so your mother, she was sharing with you as a fetus through the energy, through her consciousness, through her belief system, through her perceptions of society, of the world, her world. Remember, it was her world, okay, what she saw. Who was in her world? How did she see life? What was going on? That energy was being transferred into her brain, through her body, through the nervous system I just talked about, through her, into her heart, through into her nervous system, and then through the umbilical cord down to you as a fetus. Okay. Now, we call this time hypnagogic trance. We're unable to filter the information coming in. We're a fetus. Okay. It's nature's way of preparing. Now, this is nature's way of preparing us for what's in the world, so we know how to act, how to deal with this world. But here's the difference. Okay. Now, if you were raised in a very, very healthy environment, this environment that as a fetus, okay, where patterns of dealing with life, relationships, self-image, communication, what have you, was very, very healthy. If you were raised in that type of an environment, great. But I would just believe that the amount of people watching this video and that this video is broadcasting out to, myself included, were not raised in that type of an environment. Rather, we were dealing with patterns so we were dealing with situations where it was not really all that healthy. But here's the thing. We are dealing with patterns. So from that, patterns were developed. And these patterns influence our relationships, but our relationships with most intimate relationships, lovers, friends, siblings, parents, okay? Relationships with our bodies, relationships with our organs, heart, liver, kidneys, all of that. This foundation, like I mentioned, the computer here, the operating system, that operating system, if you will, affects all of this, all of our relationships with ourselves and our own bodies, and then everything else outside of us. Okay? Now, all that links back to this. One second, guys. I just want to get this set up here. Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. Now, here's, I say this 3T. This is the fetus I was talking about. Okay? So when we're in the fetus, all that's being downloaded. Okay? That's when our brains turn on. Third trimester, 3T, it refers to as. Scientists have discovered and found that that's when our brains turn on. So from that to age 2, we are in a delta brain state, brain waves. This is like, for instance, when we're sleeping at night, we're in a deep sleep. Our brains are in delta. From age 2 to age 7, our brains go into what's called theta brainwaves. They're a little bit faster than delta. But this is the hypnagogic trance that I just spoke about. Our bodies, our minds are here. There's no conscious awareness like we were talking about a few minutes ago. So we're just absorbing all this information. And then from age 7 to age 12, we're in alpha or slow consciousness. Okay, the conscious starts to develop here from age 7 to age 12. So this is why scientists say they say 0, but from the third trimester to age 7, this is our most formidable years. This is when the operating system is set up in our brains, in the computer, in our mind, setting us up for the world. Nature is setting us up, okay? However, this here represents about 95% of what we think about on a day-to-day basis. Also, scientists have found that 95% by age 35 we are a memorized set of emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, and attitude. By age 35. So some of you watching are maybe not 35 yet. Some of you are 35, and some of us, like myself, are well beyond 35. But this here, 95% of who we are by that time of our life, we've memorized this. This is why, as you get older, past 35, past 40, what have you, you'll hear people say things like, well, they're so set in their ways. This is what they're talking about. Being set in their ways. Emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, and attitudes. This is how we operate. Okay? Conscious thought is no longer in control. That's only 5%. So, the 5% that I'm talking about is us having those beliefs. Now I'm going to go back for a second to myself standing on Mrs. Bon Giovanni's lawn. Okay, so in that moment, I saw the landscaping. I saw the business. I had that heart-brain connection. Yes, this is who I am. Have you heard that before? Have you ever thought that? Like, just something about this is just who I am, just speaks to me, right? However, 20 years old, how I was raised, what my parents thought, what their perceptions were, what their feelings were about themselves, about taking chances, being conservative, whatever. My brother-in-law, don't take the chance, conservative, right? All that played out beautifully. It had to play out that way because that's how I was raised. This is the perceptions that I had for myself. I didn't have the self-confidence. I didn't have the self-esteem. See? I didn't know it, of course, at that time, but that was playing out. That was about 20, 21 years of age. That was subconscious programming working against only 5% of my desire. So it's a David and Goliath kind of thing, right, guys? So then how do we change this? We just blindly, right? Yeah. We blindly go through life here. All this, we just see this. But if we can take this off, and as William Blake said, open our perception, widen it, broaden it, to say, this universe is infinite. I could do anything I want. I could be anything I want. And I'm sure for some of you, like, yeah, George, this is great. Yeah, this is speaking to me. But that's only 5% of your brain, right? Operating against this, kind of like trying to take down a battleship with a spitball. See what I'm saying? But there's there's a way we can work with this. We can understand knowledge. We can learn things. We can start to incorporate how we change this around. How do we change this around? Well, we're going to have to change, like turn this battleship around. So knowledge. Now, the ancients knew about this. And the more, if you want to keep, if you're been doing this so far, studying like I've been doing, or you're new to this and you want to start kind of getting into it and start learning this stuff, I'm going to share with you a quote up here from the first century Buddhist sutra. Now, interesting that I mentioned this here because it says first century Buddhist heart sutra. Okay, heart. The quote they had is the reality of your world, your body, your physical world, and situation in life. Reality only exists where we create a focus. I want to say that again because this is tremendous. The reality of your world, not my world, your body, not mine, your body, physical world, situation in life, reality only exists where we create a focus. So, what is it you want to be? Who do you want to be? What is it that speaks to you? Okay, I want to go back to that here now. As you're listening to this, the job. Is it a just over broke? That's what job stands for, J-O-B, just over broke. Or is it a longing? Is it a burning desire inside of you? If it is, then reality only exists where you create a focus. I'm going to tie this in here in a second. The question, then how do we create this kind of focus? We do this by meditating. We do it by calming, right? I talked about a few minutes ago, a couple of pages ago, what Greg Braden did. We connect with our heart, put our finger there. Because remember, where our awareness goes, that's where our attention goes. Okay, so this is just part of it. I'm starting to build it here. Okay, now modern science is only now catching up with these ancient traditions. Science has discovered the force of belief, but scientists don't believe it. But science has recognized the force of belief. Okay, the downloading, the operating system that I'm talking about. This is where our belief system comes from. Okay, this is all. And I want to tell you this. This here is all BS, your belief system, because this here, you watching this, that's not you. This has nothing to do with you. These are the anxiety, this is the fear, this is the doubt, this is the poor self-image, this is the poor self-confidence, all of that of our caregivers. Nothing, this is not anything bad. I'm not saying I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to them or beggar. They didn't know. They didn't have any idea. They did the best they could. But this is kind of like, here you are, okay? And you're carrying this bag over your shoulder, okay? And this bag has all these rocks in it. Some of them are small, some of them are quite large. What they are is this: your parents, your caregivers. This is all their stuff that they gave to you unconsciously. And you said, okay, fine, I'll carry it. Your bag is not, there's nothing in your bag. It's empty. We are unconsciously choosing to carry this stuff. So I want to share with you something else that that I learned about this. Cognitively, our brains the development of our brain is reduced by 50%. When our mom, when their perception of life when we were a fetus was stressful, a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of lack of self-worth, poor self-image, if they saw life as very stressful, that was us. We carried that in. Cognitively, our brains, the development of our brain was reduced by 50%. Again, learning this today, maybe this is the first time you're learning this, okay? But as we learn, we have to learn to let go of that. And I'm going to talk to you here in a second about how to do that. Okay, how do we let go of this this belief system, the BS? Okay, it's all BS. That might be an affirmation you want to carry with you every time you find yourself in a situation like that. Say, it's all BS. It's all BS. It's a belief system, and I can let go of that belief. Okay, so that's something you may want, an affirmation you may want to develop. I'm going to get to the story here in a second. Just one more thing, and then I promise you I'll get to that story. So now, as we start to connect our heart and our brain together, we start to harmonize that. That releases over 1,300 positive biochemical reactions in our bodies when we align. This is anti-aging biochemical reactions released into our body. Immune response. We help to create or help to heal our bodies. Cardiovascularly, it helps to lower blood pressure. If you're dealing with high blood pressure in your life, this will help to lower it just by doing this, by meditating. Okay. There are what these call neurites in our hearts. Okay. And what scientists have found, there's a video, and maybe you could watch on the Greg Braden YouTube production video. You'll be able to see these neurites in the heart moving around. And what scientists have found, it takes about 72 hours, 3 days, for these connections to start to be made and to really kind of tighten, really start to form. So this is not something that happens overnight, but we start to download this information. I would like for you to think of a glass of, let's say, cranberry juice. Pour that in a clear glass, and I would like for you to think of yourself as putting a tablespoon of water into that. Now, of course, the first couple times we do it, you look at it and say nothing's changed, because again, perceptually, what we're seeing outward in our life, it hasn't changed, but it has on a chemical level. Our bodies, our lives are starting to change. We just can't see it yet, so it takes a little while. Now, I want to talk to you about this story. I have some notes here about the heart, the brain in our hearts, and how powerful our bodies are. So the notes go here. So it was a story about a heart transplant. There was, and this comes from Greg Braden's video as well. So there was this little girl, 8 years old, and she had a heart transplant, and she was a recipient of a heart from a 10-year-old. So doctors, they never want to give the same type of heart, or I'm just saying, they don't want to give a heart of an advanced, an older person, a larger heart, or an older person to a younger person. It's probably not going to take. But the surgery went fine. Everything worked out great. So, but one little thing changed. And the little girl started having these dreams, reoccurring dreams. And what they found was she wasn't having them every single night, but over a week, she would have them multiple times. So what the surgeon said was, he recognized this, and he said, well, I did what I did. This is not my expertise. You're fine. The surgery was a success. However, I think what we should do is I'm going to refer you to a psychiatrist to talk about these dreams you're having, because she was sharing the type of dreams. I guess her mom was sharing the type of dreams to the surgeon. So now the psychiatrist, they recognized immediately when she started to recount her dream, that this wasn't a typical dream. This was actually a memory. So now it had the characteristics of a memory, but the question was, whose memory? So what the psychiatrist did was refer in a forensic artist, so the girl could detail to the artist all of the clues of the memory she was having as she was going through her dream. Now, again, this was a similar dream each time she was having it. Each night she would have the similar dream. So the artist, um, and the girl started recounting the dream, and then he started to create. He started to draw what she was telling him. And she said that the dream always began at night, and that she was in the woods she was running very fast because she said someone was chasing her. It was a big man, and then she was running so fast. But what happened was, in the dream, she said she kept running and running, running, and then she eventually fell. And that's when the man caught up with her, and he began to assault her. And as he looks her in the eyes, she said he would look her in the eyes as he was assaulting her, and he would whisper very specific words to her. She recounted these words to the forensic artist, and that the man had he went and he told her these words. She told the artist, and then she said after the man said this, he killed her. He took her life. But now they said that the artist had a rendering, had an image that he had from the girl's memory in the dream. And then the man that she saw, and what happened was he took this and he gave it to the authorities, and they put out an all points bulletin. It wasn't long thereafter that the authorities captured the man who fit the description from this girl's dream. When they brought the man in under questioning, he immediately broke down and admitted to what she had recounted, the killing the girl. So now, in the questions, here's the key. During the interrogation, during the questioning, he recounted word for word what the little girl said that he told her in the dream. Now, from there, he was convicted, and he's now he's in jail as I'm telling you this story. But here's the thing, because the only way this could be possible would be by the memory that was preserved in that girl who gave her heart, whose heart went to this little girl. The memory was preserved in the heart, in the cells in the heart that are now in the body of the recipient, this little girl. And now she was able to share these memories with the authorities. I found that astounding. So the girl is assaulted and killed by this man. Her heart is now transferred to this other little girl, but the memories are still in the heart. And that's how she was able to have these dreams. Think about that. To me, that was just astounding. This is the power of our bodies. This is the power that we have within ourselves, the cells within our hearts, the brain that's within our heart. So this is why it is so incredibly imperative for us, if we're going to change what I just talked to you about, the programming within our lives, how we do this is we stick with this imagination. We act whatever it is that you want to do or be or have. We get this image in our mind and then we act as if we already are that person. Remember the airplane, the Wright brothers with the airplane. Think about Thomas Edison with the light bulb. How many times did he fail? In his mind, he never failed. So this is knowing this. This is how we do this. We keep to this. We almost daily and moment to moment in our lives, we speak to ourselves. We say, yes, I am that person. We choose that which is choosing us. That moment when I was on the lawn, landscaping chose me. I didn't choose landscaping. It chose me. And within that moment, it said, okay, George, I'm choosing you. And then unconsciously, I said in that moment, it's okay. I'm not ready yet. If you feel like you're ready, if you feel like now is the time, if you feel like this is the second time, third time, whatever it may be, that whatever it is you want is saying, I'm ready, knocking on your door, I'm choosing you again. My question to you is, are you going to open the door this time and accept it? Or are you going to say, yeah, no, I'm not ready yet, or I'm not ready, I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy? Because how we change that is it's all BS. It's all just another person's belief system that we've chosen to carry like a bag over our shoulder. My question to you is, who you think you are, who others say you are, is nothing more than your ego allowing others to define you. Your ego says, who I am is the clothes that I wear. Who I am is where I live, the house I live in, the apartment I live in, or where I live. That's the ego. Who you truly are is that who is calling you. Act as if you already are that right now. Remember, it's all BS. That's all it is, but that can be changed. And this is how we do it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't done already, hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. If you would like to talk more specifically about something in your life that you feel maybe I can help you with, by all means, feel free to go hit the button or the link in my channel, and I'll be honored to work with you and help coach you in any which way that you feel that I would be able to help you with that. Also, please share this video, because the more people see these types of videos and hear these types of stories, the healing we can give the rest of the world is astounding. Thank you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you the next time.